So there's a couple of other members of the Boxing Brotherhood, Chris Andre and G-Man, who made videos a while back where they were entertaining the possibility that Ben Davison may secretly be seeking revenge over Tyson Fury for replacing him as his coach with Sugar Hill Stewart. The idea is that Ben Davison felt betrayed by that. Now, as far as I'm aware, from what I've heard Ben Davison and Tyson Fury say, Davison wasn't sacked as such, but Fury told him that he wanted to add Sugar Hill Stewart to the team. Ben Davison apparently felt like his authority as the head coach was being undermined, and so he decided to go his own way. And once Fury was with Sugar Hill Stewart, he started talking about how he's learning again. He didn't say anything disparaging about Ben, but he kind of inferred or insinuated that Ben had taught him as much as he could, but he needed to learn more from a more experienced coach. And as I say, Chris Andre and G-Man were entertaining the possibility that now Ben is in a position where he's got another top-tier heavyweight. He can now prove himself to Tyson by training somebody to beat him and get revenge for that betrayal. Now, I can't tell you that Ben Davison doesn't feel that way. Definitively. I don't know for certain what's going on in Ben Davison's head. All I can tell you is what I suspect to be the case. And I suspect that Ben Davison, far from seeking revenge over Tyson Fury, is on some level still loyal to him. So Tyson Fury, ostensibly, makes quite an impression, has quite an impact on a lot of people that he encounters on a personal level, that he works with as part of his training team and so on, and to a lesser extent his promotional team as well. He's a very gregarious, generous person to the people in his circle. He has a magnetic personality, it would seem. Now, you could say that all of these people are just pretending to love Tyson Fury because of the money. Well, money is an aspect of it, obviously. All of these cash cow fighters have got big teams around them, and part of that is down to the fact that they're feeding all these hungry mouths. But with Tyson Fury, I think it's a bit deeper than that. Because you look at his relationship, for example, with Joseph Parker, a Samoan guy from literally the other side of the globe, who was actually fighting Tyson's own cousin. This is when Tyson and Huey and his uncle Peter were still on good terms. So his cousin is fighting Joseph Parker, but right around that time, when that fight happened, Tyson Fury and Joseph Parker struck up a friendship, and the bond that they have appears to be stronger than the bond between Tyson and his own blood cousin, Huey, and his own blood uncle, Peter. Because shortly after that fight, there was this big rift in the Fury family, where Peter and Huey went one way, Tyson and John went the other. To my knowledge, that rift still hasn't been healed, but yet Tyson is still ostensibly really close to Joseph Parker. So much so that Parker, at least according to BoxRec, lives a lot of the time in the UK right near Tyson Fury. I've compared Fury before to a cult leader because that's the kind of vibes you get from the Fury camp. There's this devotion to him. The people around him don't just become colleagues and team members and employees. They become cheerleaders for Tyson Fury. They're always flying the flag and they have this fierce loyalty, in most instances anyway. And while that fierce loyalty is there, and some might even argue sycophancy, while that is there, Tyson Fury is going to treat you fantastically well. Again, just like a cult leader, they're usually very charismatic. There's usually something about them that draws people towards them. There's acts of kindness and generosity and brotherhood and love and all this type of thing. It's all well and good until you do something that the cult leader doesn't like. You can quickly get excommunicated. All of that love and loyalty that you thought they had for you, all of a sudden has been turned on its head. Now it's hostility. Is that not what we saw with Peter Fury and Mick Hennessy? Previously, Tyson had said that he'd be with Mick to the end of his career and he was fiercely loyal to him. And Mick Hennessy looked at Tyson like a son. You know, all this stuff they used to talk about in public. And when they parted ways, Mick Hennessy talked about how that was the most hurt he's ever been in boxing. Because it wasn't just a business situation. Mick Hennessy actually had some feeling towards Tyson Fury on an emotional level. He had an affection for him. But because Mick Hennessy and his uncle Peter, well, let me not just say it was because of this alone, because I've heard there's a bit more to it and it has something to do with money. But I'm not an insider, right? This is just what I've heard on a grapevine. But certainly there was a post put up by Peter Fury somewhere on social media of Peter, and I think it was Mick, in the David Hay gym in London. And I believe they'd gone there to look for sparring for one of the fighters they were involved with. I'm not sure whether it was Huey or someone else. I don't think they were necessarily sparring that day, but they were looking for something. And I think they said that David Haye wasn't even in the gym. They were just talking to other people who go there that are associated with Haye. And Tyson Fury turned up in the comments of that post, and he was having a go at his Uncle Peter and Mick Hennessy. Said that they were in bed with the enemy and how disappointed he was with the pair of them. And it was right around that time that they stopped speaking to each other. That's what happens when you go against the cult leader. You get excommunicated. Now, with some people like Peter, even though he's a blood relative of Tyson, Peter's always been a successful businessman, whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. He appears, as an outsider looking in, to always have his business head on. So he doesn't get too caught up in the emotions of things. Even when he was training Tyson, Peter didn't show that much emotion. It was all business, business, business. We've got a job to do. I'm here to help Tyson do the job. I'm strategizing. I'm very serious. That's it. In stark contrast to John Fury, his brother, who's very emotional about his son, about himself, about the whole situation. And so where I'm going with this is Peter Fury, I'm sure, doesn't feel great about this rift in his family, but he's been able to deal with it ostensibly quite well because of his business-minded nature. Whereas Mick Hennessy seemed a lot more outwardly hurt by that situation. Peter Fury knows his own. And where I'm going with that is the love that Tyson Fury seems to have for people in his circle. How genuine is it? That's a question. I don't know Tyson Fury personally. But again, like a cult leader, they can convince you that they really love you. In some instances, it's just all an act. They're good at love bombing you. I don't think Ben Davison has ever got over the love bombing that he got from Tyson Fury. Far from seeking revenge over Tyson Fury, I suspect Ben Davison actually feels as though he's betraying Fury's trust by training Anthony Joshua. If you look at the way Ben Davison talks about his fighters, when he was with Fury, again, he was a Fury cheerleader, screaming from the rooftops about him. Now that he trains Lee Wood, he's always singing his praises. But with Anthony Joshua, he's far more subdued. There's no cheerleading for AJ. And whenever the subject of Tyson Fury is broached as far as being a potential future opponent for Anthony Joshua, Ben Davison just skips over it completely and doesn't want to answer any questions. He keeps talking about AJ fighting Usyk for a third time. To me, those don't seem like the actions of someone who wants to use AJ to get revenge over Tyson Fury. To me, those seem like the actions of someone who feels conflicted. If he came out and said, yeah, I'm going to train AJ to beat Fury, I don't think Ben Davison would feel right in his soul because I think he still has this emotional attachment to Tyson. And that's why he doesn't say it. I think Fury still has some kind of cult leaderish psychological emotional hold over him. Whether Fury's trying to have that or not, I suspect it's there. I could be wrong. I could have completely misread the situation. I'm not saying any of this stuff definitively. It's just what I suspect. I've seen trainers who've been sacked by fighters and they end up in the corner of one of that fighter's future opponents. And they don't skirt around the possibility of their new guy fighting their old guy. When they want revenge, they're quite blatant about it, in many instances at least. An example would be when Lennox Lewis sacked his previous trainer Pepe Correa after his loss to Oliver McCall and hired Manny Stewart. Lewis's comeback fight was against a guy called Lionel Butler. Can you guess who was in Lionel Butler's corner as his coach? Pepe Correa, Lewis's old trainer. And Pepe Correa was talking that talk, extra smoky, about how he knew exactly how to defeat Lennox Lewis. He knew all his weaknesses, so on and so forth, because he trained him. We don't see that kind of energy from Ben Davison. Now, you could say that Ben Davison is a different type of personality. He's not as loud and bombastic as Pepe Correa. That's definitely true. But in most instances, you'd expect to see some type of sign, some type of hint that Ben Davison would want to take Anthony Joshua and use him to gain revenge over Tyson Fury. I haven't seen anything like that. The only hints I've seen are in the opposite direction, i.e. he's still loyal to Tyson Fury on some level, or at the very least, he feels conflicted. Maybe part of him would like to prove himself to Fury and show Fury that he made a mistake by not staying with him as coach or not allowing him to remain the head coach and not have any secondary coaches. But another part of him may feel that he's betraying the Tyson Fury circle, the family. So while I think Ben Davison is a very good coach, a coach who has been disrespected and underrated by a lot of British boxing fans in my view, and I've been saying this for a very long time. This is not me jumping on a bandwagon after AJ put in a performance against Otto Wallin. No, I've been defending Ben Davison's ability as a coach for at least a couple years now. But his previous relationship with Tyson Fury, I suspect, is problematic when it comes to potentially training Anthony Joshua to fight Fury. If that situation and that issue wasn't there, I wouldn't have any reservations about AJ declaring that Ben Davison's going to be his coach for the rest of his career. Because again, I think Ben Davison's a good coach. And as many other people have pointed out now, he has a very analytical mind and he's very good at explaining himself. He's very good at breaking down the mechanics of boxing. And I think that style of coaching suits Anthony Joshua because AJ seems to have this very analytical mind himself where he needs things explaining down to the fine detail. He's not the most intuitive guy in the world. With someone like that, you have to give more detail than with someone who is more intuitive. Tyson Fury, for example, comes across as a much more intuitive fighter. You don't have to give him as much information for him to understand what you want him to do. But AJ does need all that information. And so Ben's a great guy for that. A lot of coaches have a tremendous amount of knowledge, but they're not all equally adept at conveying that knowledge to their fighters. We're talking about communication skills. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the possibility that Ben Davison is looking for revenge over Tyson Fury. At this stage, I suspect that that's not the case at all. I could be wrong, and perhaps Ben Davison's mind could change as situations unfold. But that's the way I see it at this juncture. Let me know how you guys see it in the comment section below. And before I go, I want to give a shout out to all the new subscribers to my Patreon page. I cover loads of different topics in my weekly podcast, as you can see on screen right now, from current events to deep dives down the rabbit hole and everything in between. I'm really enjoying the feedback and the discussions we've been having on there lately. So if you'd like to join the conversation, just click the link in the description box below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.